All right, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Make sure my stuff is up a little bit. I don't know for some reason this is low. All right, so we're good. So we're golden for that. Thank you. Uh, yeah, my connection is pretty awful. Quality I know is not that good. I just got a camera, so bear with me for it, people. But yeah, just I just want to quickly just talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide game real quick. With the white team winning 13-10, there was some good, some ups, some downs. If you guys also want to talk about some other spring games as well, I got a chance to watch a little bit of LSU and some Ohio State. So if you guys want to talk about some other spring games, definitely I'm down for it. But just to quickly just kind of recap this thing real quick, Bryce Young was pretty good, pretty solid for the most part. We were able to see some of the good for that. And I know they're saying my connection is pretty unstable real quick, so let me try to fix that. Just got some technical issues here. Hold on real quick. Okay. Yeah, yeah, Dale. I mean, I watched a little bit of the Ohio State game. Jack Sawyer, Moro. I heard Jack Sawyer was going off. I heard he had like what 3 sacks in the first half. I heard about him. So that kid looks like he's gonna be a monster. The next great pass rusher. I heard a little bit was what was going on with Jack. I know for some other notable freshmen, at least for the Alabama Crimson Tide side, I know that IG Hall, he pretty much did really he had a very solid game, was able to make a lot of tough contested catches, all that stuff like that. But yeah, Jack Sawyer, I heard he went off today. But just quickly recapping this thing real quick as my connection is getting a little bit better. Bryce Young was outstanding. Bryce Young was outstanding today. We saw some good, some bad. You were able to see really the height advantages. You obviously see the trouble with his height, right? 5'9". He's listed as 6 feet tall. He's really 5'9" or 5'10". Has a strong arm, but has the quick release. Has the mobility that Mac Jones really doesn't have. I mean, but Mac Jones always had the mobility inside the pocket, but as far as extending plays, mobility in the pocket, and really just the awareness surrounding him, and really able to step him in good situations, Bryce Young was outstanding with that today. Again, like I said a little bit earlier, the height advantage was definitely something that Bama fans should definitely be a little bit concerned about, because there were times where Bryce Young really couldn't make throws because of his lack of height. Um, but really, besides that, I thought that Young was out. I thought he was pretty solid for the most part. I think there's some things that he needs to work on. A lot of things he needs to work on. I think he doesn't really have that much of a grasp of the offense, but it's close enough where he can. And compared to some of the other players like Paul Tyson and what we were able to see. I don't even. I'm not too sure if we saw Miro again. My game kind of cut off. It switched off of ESPN, but we saw some. Who was this kid? Draxter. He was pretty good as well. So. Um, I like what I overall wise, I like what I saw from Bryce Young. What's up, Moody? I thought spring game was solid, Moody, man. I thought spring game was definitely solid. I know your team, Ohio State. I know they had a pretty good spring game as well. I need to go back and watch that so I can actually do a video on that and kind of recap it. But Ohio State, for what I've heard, they've had a pretty solid spring game. But Bama did pretty good as well. I caught a little bit of it, Jeremiah. Like I caught a little bit of that first half where Jack Sawyer I heard went off. I caught a little bit of it though. I didn't watch the full one, but for what I've heard, I heard Ohio State did really well. I need to go back and watch that game, and I'll definitely do a video on it. How did CJ Stroud do? I'm very curious. Do you like his performance? Do you feel like there were some other quarterbacks that kind of outshined him? How was he? I'm actually very curious for CJ Stroud. Maybe we can do a little comparison between him and Bryce. I know him. I know for Bryce Young was pretty decent for the most part. Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I when I flipped to the Big Ten Network and I was watching a little bit of that game, Jack Sawyer was going ham. He is strong, man. That kid is strong. He's explosive coming off the edge. That kid is going to be a problem. He is going to be a problem. I know fans have been dying to find that next Chase Young, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. I know fans were a little disappointed in Zach Harrison, even though I think Zach Harrison's been more of a solid pass rusher. But man, if Jack Sawyer is going to be that guy, the true freshman, boy. Yeah, I think Bama looks solid, Moody. Bama looks pretty solid for the most part. Again, there was a lot of mistakes that were made in spring, but it's spring, right? It's not fall camp, it's not the summer. So there was bound to be a lot of mistakes. Your boy Nick Saban was yelling his ass off at 69 years of age. So that was very, very cool to see, I guess. I mean, you saw sometimes he was cussing at players, but for the most part, yeah, it was pretty decent, pretty good spring. You said still learning the playbook now? Was there any other like notable players that that kind of stepped up? Was there like any other like some players that were kind of on the bench, like Julian Fleming or some other players that kind of stepped up there, Neil? I can see it. I didn't. Georgia had their spring game too. I need to go back and watch Georgia's spring game. I honestly, for me, I think it's Bama and LSU this year. I'm one of those guys that will always kind of say Alabama LSU, but I think it's LSU, man. I think LSU this. I think it's between Alabama and LSU this year. Georgia, for me, I think the loss of Pickens hurts them. They're lacking in receiving depth. I know Jermaine Burton is hurt. I forgot their slot receiver. He's a guy that really can't stay healthy. He's had a couple of major injuries. Um, they have an outside receiver that's pretty good, but for the most part, Georgia's lacking in receiving depth. They always got the line, so they're going to be good in the ground game. Defensively, they should be solid, but I don't think they're going to be good as they were last year. I just think it's between LSU and Alabama as far as winning the West. Maybe A&M too. I always keep forgetting A&M, but that's just because of quarterback play. If A&M can get their quarterback play right, then the sky's the limit for those guys as well. Marvin here, I heard a lot of good things about Marvin Harrison Jr. I heard a lot of good things about Marvin Harrison Jr. I heard he's been dominating spring crab. I know Chris Olave, he had a lot of good things to say about Marvin Harrison Jr. Haskell Garrett was out too. Okay. Jamison Williams, like it. Jamison Williams, he's the is he the outside corner? Was he the outside corner that played opposite of Sean Wade? Jamison Williams? I feel like I heard that name. I feel like that's like very, very familiar. I think he played outside of Sean Wade at the outside cornerback position. I'm not too sure. Could be kind of got that wrong. Marvin Harrison Jr. was good. That's yeah. I know he came. I watched the kid in high school when he went to St. Joseph's. He went to St. Joseph's Prep and when in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I watched him against IMG. The kid is solid. Built just like his dad too, man. Very slender but tall, very lengthy. I think he's taller than his dad. Marvin Harrison was like 6 feet tall. This kid is like 6'3", very tall, very lengthy, more physical in my opinion. And it's high school compared to the NFL, but just as far as just physical appearances, man, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. He plays exactly like his dad. I like him. He's okay. He's a receiver. That's nice. Amika, I think his name is Amika Abuke, the kid from Washington. Is he an early enrollee or is he a guy that's coming in the summer? I know he's a 5-star that's coming out of Washington. Kiffin, how did Auburn look? I know they had their spring game as well. Do you I know you just said that you feel like Alabama was going to win, but like compared to what you kind of seen from last season, do you feel like Auburn made some improvements? Do you think Bo Nix made some improvements as a passer? Okay, Abika looks really good. That's really nice. So he's there. Okay. Ohio State's y'all receiving core is deep, man. I will say that, Neil. Your your receiving core is absolutely loaded with just a crap ton of talent. I'm very excited for you guys in the future, man. You guys are loaded at that position. Um, I can't wait to see it. I think the only thing that you guys and again, you guys can tell me this because again, you guys watch the actual spring game. I need to go back and watch those games. How did the ground game look? I know Master Teague was out. One of you guys told me that. How did the ground game look in comparison? There wasn't. I know there's no tackling because you guys had a very physical spring that was very close to your to how it would look during the summer. But how did the ground game look for you guys? I think that's my only question for you guys going into this year is that you guys have a dynamic runner. Last year was kind of Trey Sermon. The year prior for that was J.K. Dobbins and Ezekiel Elliott and so forth. But again, I think for you guys to compete for that championship, you need that dynamic runner. And I think the same thing applies for us. We need a dynamic runner. I don't think Brian Robinson is going to be that guy. Okay. How did Tank Bixby look? How do you feel about him, Tank Bixby? Olave and Wilson will be divine. Yeah, it could be. It could be, man. You know what? I would compare them more to Chris Olave. Who does he remind me of? Chris Olave. Who does he remind me of? He doesn't remind me of Devontae Smith. He reminds me. I'm trying to think of a he reminds me a little bit of Justin Blackman. I think Chris Olave. I think he reminds me of a kind of a less explosive Justin Blackman in a way. I think it's more Justin Jefferson, um, Jamar Chase as far as their combo goes. I think Garrett Wilson is a phenomenal contested catcher. He knows how to make those contested catches. Chris Olave is a smooth route runner, is phenomenal when it comes to getting in and out of his breaks. Can definitely make those tough contested catches. Um, but then you have to add Julian Fleming as far as talent. You now add in Marvin Harrison Jr. You got another. I think they had like a. I mean, Ohio State is loaded in there, but yeah, man, definitely the best receiving core on paper in the country. Just question the quarterback position. Yeah, I mean, you got the kid from that went to the same schools, St. Joseph, Kyle McCord. You got C.J. Stroud, and yeah, I mean, for the most part, I mean, I think defensive line will be solid. I think Haskell Garrett will man the trenches. Again, from what I've seen from Jack Sawyer, that kid's going to take off as a monster. But even if he's not there, you still got Zach Harrison. You got other players that can fill the void there. I would say the secondary, from what I've seen, based off of the previews. I made my preview video on Ohio State, but based off of for what I've seen before, I think the secondary, the ground game, and the quarterback play is probably your biggest question. But everything is there for Ohio State to make a championship run for sure. Trayvon Henderson, that's okay. That's what I was thinking of. So Trayvon Henderson, the kid from Virginia, I remember Trayvon Henderson. Okay, so I forgot about him. Maybe who knows? Maybe he can be that next J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, now, I'm glad you're confident about Ohio State's ground game. I mean, I will say this: as long as you got an offensive line, you're fine. I mean, Ohio State, they've been Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia's. some of the most successful schools of what they've been doing for over a decade. They've always had great ground games, but big reason why was because they've always had a successful offensive line. So that's not a problem. That's not a problem at all with Ohio State. I think they return like what 3 starters with their offensive line, but they're loaded. They're loaded there. Yeah, he won the Elite 11 competition. That's the thing. CJ Stroud won the Elite 11 competition. And again, I apologize for my connection. I know my connection's a little bit kind of crap. I'll fix that. But yeah, CJ Stroud, he dominated the Elite 11 competition. I think, I'm surprised he wasn't boosted as a 5-star recruit. But, that's, how, these recruiting rankings will go. You don't think it's Jack Miller? Okay, Tyreek Smith was out too? Okay. And Tyreek Smith also missed the national championship against Alabama. So I think it's very, very crucial. It's very, very crucial for you guys to have him back. Tyreek Smith is a phenomenal. He's a disruptor. He's not a guy that's going to get you a bunch of sacks, but he's a disruptor, man. I think that's very important for you guys to have him back for sure. Okay, CJ Stroud and Kyle Stroud looked really good again. That's nice, awesome. Again, I understand there wasn't any tackling from what I heard, but still, I mean, for the most part, that's a positive. That's a positive going into the fall season right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you guys more run about you guys don't really. I heard you guys don't really run the crossing routes anymore. You guys run more of a vertical scheme. A lot of option routes for what I've heard, but yeah, Jack Miller. He's another he's another touted talented kid. And that's really the argument that Bama fans are now making a little bit with Paul Tyson. Just to make it just a quick comparison, I know for Paul Tyson, he played strong arm, great velocity, big kid, 6'5", 230 pounds, but his style of play doesn't fit what Alabama wants. And again, people can say, well, Mac Jones did his thing, but at the same time, you watch Bryce Young and you watch today, and it's like, damn, you really missed that. You really missed the elusiveness in the pocket, in and out of the pocket, the ability to extend plays when the pocket is collapsing. And not to mention that Mac Jones had the best offensive line in the country. If Jack Miller is going to be the guy, and he doesn't really have the offensive line. He has a good offensive line, but maybe not that dominant offensive line. If he goes against a team that puts a lot of pressure, is those is his lack of traits, is that going to hurt him compared to the CJ Strouds of the world? And Quinn Ewers is coming back too, and Quinn Ewers for next year, he's 6'3", 195 pounds, but he also has mobility. Now he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's mobile. He can run the football, and having a quarterback that can extend those plays it's crucial for your offense. Very crucial for your offense, especially because Ohio State's not really running. They're not running that Dwayne Haskins offense anymore. They're running more of a vertical scheme. So yeah, I can't wait for that game either, man. Georgia Clemson is going to be hot again. I watched the Clemson spring game. I watched the Clemson spring game. DJ Uiagalelei looks, man, that boy has a rocket. He has a rocket for an arm. Um, their offensive line should be better compared to what they were last year. The running game, the running game is where I kind of have a question with, because Travis Etienne was that guy, and they don't really have the best offensive line this year. The running game is kind of questionable. I mean, I saw some players make some plays, but CJ Dixon, I don't really believe he's going to be the guy. The receivers should be fine. Their defense should be fine. Georgia, I need to see that spring game. I really need to see that spring game for Georgia. Again, I just, if you got Clemson week one, man, you got to have the receivers. You got to have dynamic. You got to have those guys on the outside, and the fact that they're missing majority of those goals, that's huge. Yeah. Clemson or Ohio State Gelato or Georgia Gelato, or you're talking about Ohio State? Alabama and Miami is a very underrated game. Yeah. Um, you know, I, I'm I'm one of those people that I like Miami, but they just I don't know, man. It's like you miss Jalen Phillips is gone, Quincy Roche is gone, and then Gregory Rousseau he kind of opted out the next year, and then you don't know who's going to be those next guys. Miami has been so focused on the transfer portal over the last couple of years that it's now it's now become a hindrance for them. Now it's a huge detriment to them. De'Ara King, is he really going to recover for the fall? I like the receivers. They went to the transfer market. They got Charleston Rambo, and I think they got two of their or three of their top receivers coming back. That's huge. But they relied a lot of Brevin Jordan in the slot. On the outside was a lot again. The outside Charleston Rambo can be their deep threat. Their offensive line really wasn't the greatest. They got a good running game, but their offensive line really wasn't the greatest in pass protection. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a little bit underrated, but again, going into those deep waters, the third, the fourth quarter, can Miami hang with them? I think that's really the question. But I don't know. I need to look more at my more. I need to look more at Miami. Um, but I don't know. It's like it seems like every opponent that Alabama plays against in the first week, those non-neutral field type of games where Alabama clearly has the advantage. We everyone keeps saying that it's going to be an underrated game. It's going to be a little bit of a close game, and then Bama just goes out there and dominates. So is it going to be one of those games, or is it going to be a game where it truly can be a pretty decent game? Yeah, I mean, Alabama's offense wasn't bad today. They did miss they did, Emil Ikior, he didn't play. Evan Neal played a little bit. Um, their offensive line's young, extremely, extremely young. Chris Owens also didn't play as well, the center. But they're extremely young. They need to figure out the right tackle position, their the right tackle spot. They need to figure out the right guard spot a little bit there. Um, Evan Neal's going to be kicked out to left tackle, so they got spots where they kind of need to figure out. And everyone's keeps saying, well, Tommy Brockermeyer could be that guy. Tommy Brockermeyer got dominated today. He's a true freshman. He's young at spring. Tommy Brockermeyer got destroyed by Chris Braswell. He got destroyed by Jackson coming off the outside. He got work today. JC Latham, I didn't really see too much of Latham, which could be a positive thing. Again, I need to go back and focus more on the offensive line. Javon Cohen got beat. Damian George got beat. I mean, some of those areas where you're expecting some of these guys to step up, they got destroyed by the defensive line today. Now, granted, 5 and 4 star defensive linemen and 5-star edge rushers coming off the edge, but still, that's a little concerning. And we've heard over the last three scrimmages that this defense has dominated Alabama's offensive line. So, what has kind of been the heartbeat for Alabama the last couple of years, which has been their offensive line, is that going to be a hindrance for them going into the season? I think that could be a problem. That could be a problem, and it might take them a while before they can actually find the chemistry and they can actually get things going. They got the talent; they just got to figure things out. Justin Fields will go to the San Francisco 49ers. I can see it. I know a lot of it. I'm one of those guys, and I'm a Bama fan, of course. You guys know that. I would take Justin Fields over Mac Jones with the third overall pick, only because I want the quarterback with more upside. I know what I'm getting with Mac Jones. I know what I'm getting. I know the potential upside I'm getting with Mac Jones. The sky is the limit with Justin Fields. I want a guy that's mobile. I want a guy that's big. I want a guy that has all the physical tools, all the physical traits. I want the intangibles included, with Justin Fields has as well. Um, I just want the quarterback with more upside. I don't want the typical pocket passing quarterback. And I know with Kyle Shanahan, he can win with Kyle Shanahan. Mac Jones, there's no question that if he gets with Kyle Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan utilizes right as far as giving him the weapons, really giving him an offense that he can understand, which again is very similar to Steve Sarkisian's offense when he ran in Alabama, which is why Shanahan loves him. But at the same time, it's like I would rather have a guy that understands the intricacies of your offense, that is a guy that's again that's mobile, that has the arm, that has all the physical traits. I mean, look at Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is the perfect example of what you can get in a guy that if you just surround him with the tools, if you just give him the proper weapons. Look what happened with Josh Allen. It took him a couple years to get there, but when he got there, he became an elite quarterback, and the upside is still there. That's the thing, is that there is a ceiling with Mac Jones. There isn't a ceiling with Justin Fields. Yeah, Justin Fields won the Elite 11, man. He did. He beat Trevor Lawrence out. And matter of fact, Trevor Lawrence didn't look good in the Elite 11. Trevor Lawrence didn't look good. Now, obviously, that didn't affect his NFL career, but that should just tell you right there that Justin Fields was ready for. He was ready. Justin Fields was ready. I didn't think that Kirby Smart in Georgia handled Justin Fields right. I feel like his development was crap. There were some other things off the field that Justin Fields hated that I'm not going to go into. That was a part of the reason why he transferred. But let's be honest, Georgia, they didn't properly develop him. The offense didn't fit Justin Fields. The talent wasn't really there as far as receivers that can really help him out. Ohio State was the perfect situation for Justin Fields to go to. I thought Bryce Young looked really. Yeah, I agree with you, Crips. I think I definitely thought that Bryce Young looked really good. I think the most impressive thing, I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. I love the velocity. That dude has phenomenal touch in his passes. He has a quick ass release. Bryce Young has a quick ass release. The only thing that I can definitely say was decision making needs to be fixed a little bit. He didn't really go through his progressions a lot. It was more of a kind of a one read situation. That's just knowing the offense. He needs to know a little more of the offense and really quickly go through those progressions. But the traits, but as far as the arm talent, the strength, it's there. I would say the one hindrance that he just can't fix. He can't fix this. I mean, he can adapt to it. I mean, you look at guys, some of the shorter quarterbacks like Russell Wilson and Drew Brees, you can fix it. The height played a factor in the spring game because there were some throws where if that's Mac Jones or if that's Tua, like if Bryce Young was just like an inch or two higher, Bryce Young could have made that throw. But that's something that he has got to fix. That's something that he's got to find a way to fix that. But height, that's a little concerning to me that he couldn't really see over some of the taller offensive linemen. But besides that, Bryce Young was I thought he looked really good. And here's the thing about this too, Neil. Tua didn't beat out Jalen. Tua didn't beat out Jalen his freshman year. When he got to Alabama, Tua was better than Jalen Hurts. You can go back to that spring game, and Tua outplayed the absolute crap out of Jalen Hurts. But guess what happened? Jalen Hurts was the fit. Jalen Hurts had the intangibles. Nick Saban leaned more towards Jalen Hurts' intangibles for that 2017 year. You kind of fast forward in the 2018 season. Justin Fields, and this is from what I've heard from rumors, was that fall camp, Justin Fields was better than Jake Fromm. Justin Fields outplayed Jake Fromm. He outplayed him. But guess what? Kirby Smart went with Jake Fromm. So yeah, I agree with you. It makes me mad too that NFL scouts and some of these quote unquote NFL experts are kind of bashing Justin Fields for not beating out Fromm his freshman year when there's evidence that shows that Justin Fields did. It's just that Kirby Smart went with the guy that, for some reason, he thought better fitted his offense. That shouldn't be a hindrance on Justin Fields, and he's a true freshman. That shouldn't. We need to stop with the. Not everyone's Trevor Lawrence. Not everyone's Trevor Lawrence, and even Trevor Lawrence didn't beat out Kelly Bryant. Trevor Lawrence didn't beat out Kelly Bryant. It was a quarterback competition to like week 5, even though Kelly Bryant was the one that saved Clemson's season. But, that's a coach's decision. Sometimes the better quarterback is not the one that's chosen. And clearly, Justin Fields has been the better quarterback. Uh, I will say this, Kev, is that if you actually go back, I think they're similar. I don't think that Jalen Hurts is better than Tua last year, but I don't think Tua was better than Jalen Hurts last year. I thought that Tua earlier on, I thought that Tua in his first 3 to 4 starts looked really, really good as a game manager. He was decisive. He went through his progressions. His strikes were there. He didn't have the deep ball accuracy compared to what we saw from Jalen Hurts, and we saw Tua. When Tua was making bad plays, we kind of saw his confidence diminish. Like as soon as he finally, as soon as he took those L's, and he didn't really. And as far as the check downs and some of the other shorter routes was gone, we saw that Tua we were able to see kind of his confidence diminish. As Jalen Hurts, when he made bad plays, nothing phases Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts' confidence actually kind of rose up a little bit, and you actually kind of saw him get better as a passer a little bit. But obviously, the one thing that kind of separated those two was Jalen Hurts' his ability to run. I mean, Jalen Hurts, his ability to run and extend plays compared to what we saw from Tua, I thought kind of separated those two. Um, it'll be very interesting to see what happens in year two if Tua does become the guy, and if Jalen Hurts, if he does, if he becomes the guy. It'll be very interesting to see which one is better this year. I think another thing too is that we need to give quarterbacks more time. Like I think the one thing that I hate that for people that are criticizing Tua is that Tua it was his first year, and not to mention that he was kind of thrown a little bit in the fire when Ryan Fitzpatrick should have been the starter all year. There's no doubt. He should have been the starter all year. It destroyed the locker room. It destroyed the chemistry. It's unfair to Tua, but he had to step him in that role. And when Tua played bad, Ryan Fitzpatrick came and he kind of bailed him out. And that just, I thought that the whole Tua situation was handled like crap, honestly. So if this is a year where Tua does become the guy and they do surround Tua with weapons, and not to mention that they fired Chan Gailey because Chan Gailey's offense really didn't fit Tua. I thought that Tua handled that situation well with Chan. It'll be very interesting if they can get an offensive coordinator that better fits Tua's needs and his tendencies, and then get receivers and weapons that can fit Tua. And we'll see what happens. Again, it happened with Josh Allen. We'll see if it can happen with Tua. I think the same thing should be with Jalen Hurts too. It's not fair for Jalen Hurts if they don't really provide him any help at all, and then they kind of cut him the next year, or if they replace him the next year because they don't think Jalen Hurts can do it. Well, of course, if you're not providing Jalen Hurts with help, what the hell do you expect him to do? The biggest non-con game. That's actually a good question. I'm trying to think about it too, real quick. I'm trying to look up the schedule real quick because I can. That's a good question. I've been so focused on that Georgia Clemson game. Biggest non-con game. Hmm. I would probably say I guess Alabama Miami. I think I need to look more at that schedule. I guess I can say Alabama Miami. LSU versus UCLA. That's another one I just thought of. I need to see how UCLA looks. I don't know. That's actually a pretty good question. Hmm. I think Maryland, West Virginia. That's pretty underrated. Especially I think because I heard that Talia looks really good this year. I think that's a pretty underrated game, and West Virginia's no slouch. Um, isn't it Oregon playing Ohio State this year? I forgot about that. Isn't Oregon playing Ohio State this year? Is that happening? If Oregon's playing Ohio State this year, that's my answer then. That'll be very interesting to see right there. Oregon's, especially their Pac-12. Okay, yeah. So that yeah. I'll say Oregon versus Ohio State. I think because that game is being played in Ohio State because last year it should have been in Oregon, but they can't do it. So this year it's going to be played in the Horseshoe. So that's going to be interesting, man. Kayvon Thibodeau versus Nicholas Piet-Pierre. Oh boy, 2 5 stars going at it. Woo, that's going to be exciting. Kayvon Thibodeau versus Nicholas Piet-Pierre. That's two potential first round picks going against each other. That's going to be phenomenal to watch. Jalen is still the same quarterback. Yeah, last year he was kind of one read and he kind of took off. But I will give Jalen Hurts credit, man. He did develop towards the end. He did show some promise. You just want to see more. You want to see him go through his progressions. You want to see him kind of become a little bit more elusive in the pocket. You don't want to see him just kind of just be a one read and just take off quarterback. You want to see him a little bit of you want to see some progression, but that's all up to the organization of giving him help, of giving him the proper training. That's also, that's Jalen Hurts too. He's got to improve as well himself, besides of just relying on the organization for help. Um, but yeah, Jalen Hurts, man, he looked kind of the same, but again, I would, I think that Jalen Hurts, I think he'll do fine. Okay, so I just got the Ohio State game, so I'm definitely gonna be watching that game. So I will be doing a little bit of a recap video on that. So I will definitely recap that thing right there. Probably do Auburn, some of the other spring games. I'll probably do some more recaps for them as well. Uh, but the one time I actually went back and watched a little bit of freaking Ohio State, freaking Jack Sawyer just jumped out of my screen. That boy is going to be a problem. It's hard to repeat, man. I'm not going to take it. I mean, if there's anyone that can do it, it's Tom. I mean, Tom Brady's the GOAT. Oh boy, it is extremely hard though to repeat in the NFL. I mean, teams change, schemes change. It's not like college how it's the same 4 to 5 teams. It's extremely hard to kind of repeat. I think the biggest question though, man, who's going to contend with them? It's like who's going to contend with them in the NFC? Is Kansas City going to get any better in the AFC? Is Buffalo going to get any better in the AFC? Is Greg Roman finally going to is Greg Roman finally going to open up your offense and finally give Lamar Jackson some damn receivers on the outside so that he could actually develop as a passer? Uh, you know, is Justin Herbert is LA going to get any better? It's like you look at Tampa, they got their entire core back. I think they got like maybe one player gone. They got their entire core back. They're loaded at the receiving position. They're loaded on defense. Offensive line was huge for them last year, especially at that left tackle spot. Tristan Wirfs was a monster last year as a rookie. It's kind of hard not to pick them, but at the same time, just knowing the history of the NFL, it is besides the Patriots. I mean, you can't. The Seahawks was the closest team to repeating. Kansas City almost did it, but it's hard to repeat. I don't know. I don't know, man. I would. Oh, it's hard. That's a good question. Um, who will be the top NFL draft prospect next year? Hmm. Top NFL draft pick next year. You know, and I would just say this: I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Garrett Wilson is one of the top prospects. I look at Sam Howell. I think Sam Howell could be that guy. Jaden Daniels. I love Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels could be the top prospect. 6'3", 200 pounds, but a guy with a very strong arm, great velocity, great pocket awareness. I think last year was a down year for him, but if he can bounce back and just produce a more of a better year, I think Jaden Daniels could be that guy. Um, I'm an Alabama fan because I'm biased, so I'm just so thinking of some names real quick for Alabama. Evan Neal could be that guy. Um, William Anderson next year as a top. I mean, William Anderson as a freshman, was the best pass rusher in the SEC, so he could be that guy. I look at a guy like BJ Ojulari from LSU, very explosive edge rusher coming off the edge. He is very, very dynamic and dominant. So BJ Ojulari could potentially be that person. If Eric Gilbert can get his crap together, he could be the next. If Eric Gilbert can get his crap together and we can start seeing him play some football, maybe he could be that guy. Eli Ricks, I think, is the top corner. Derek Stingley Jr. Derek Stingley Jr. He's going to be coming out. No, Derek Stingley Jr. I'm sorry. Let me stop with Eric Ricks. Derek Stingley Jr. could be the top prospect as well. Derek Stingley Jr. was projected as the top prospect his freshman year, and then obviously the COVID year, and he had a down year. But Derek Stingley Jr. could be that guy as well. I'm waiting for Adam Anderson to break out, Galato. I am waiting for Adam Anderson to break out. I mean, we've been saying this for like 2 years. We've been saying this about Adam Anderson for 2 years, man. I'm waiting for him to break out. He is an explosive athlete. He's a freak. He's a freak of an athlete. I don't know if it's Georgia's scheme. He's been more of a rotational player the last 2 to 3 years. I'm waiting for him to break out because I think once he does break out, I think he is going to be a first round prospect. I thought the DBs played pretty well. I thought Brandon Turnage was the best one. I thought Brandon Turnage was the best defensive back today. I thought he really, really impressed me today. He was solid in bump and run man coverage, was very, very physical up front, was pretty decent in zone coverage as well. I thought that Josh Jobe had an up and down day. He got destroyed by Trayshawn Holden. Josh Jobe got destroyed on Trayshawn Holden. And he got destroyed on a couple of in and out routes um, by Agiya Hall. But I thought he made some pretty good plays. I thought Daniel Wright as a safety made some strides, made some improvements compared to what I seen last year. I don't know if Brian Branch played today. I know Malachi Moore was definitely out for this game. Um, but yeah, there was some. I thought that defensive backs played pretty well. I thought Ronald Williams he needs to work a lot. We need to work a little bit. I don't know if Kyrie Jackson played. I don't know if Kyrie Jackson played or not, but I thought Brandon Turnage was the one guy that kind of jumped off my screen. Not a lot of people are talking about him. I don't even think anyone threw the Kool-Aid side, so that I think that's a good thing that because I didn't even hear Kool-Aid's name, being called. He got called for, again, Nick Saban cussed him out for walking on the football field, but Kool-Aid, no one really even threw to his side, so I think that's definitely a good thing right there. Jalen Armour Davis, I thought, yeah, I think that's another one that played pretty well. He was pretty good in bump and run cover. He was very physical. Very, very physical, very tall, very lengthy type of a corner. He's a typical Nick Saban corner. I thought, yeah, I agree with you. Jalen Arbor Davis played pretty solid. I thought he was solid today. Yeah, I mean, they could run. I mean, if you get Eric Gilbert, you could run 12 personnel. I mean, Eric Gilbert's he's more of a Kyle Pitts. He's more of a Kyle Pitts player. He's more of a guy that he's not really a guy that you line up. He's not a lineup guy. He's more of a guy that you line him up out wide or you line him up in the slot as an extra receiver. But again, he's 6'6", he's 250 pounds. He's a tremendous route runner, has great hands. He needs to find a destination that fits him. I thought Florida could have been that destination, but he didn't want to be there. So apparently he wanted to stay at LSU, but his grades, that was the biggest issue, was grades. So he was kind of forced to enter a transfer portal. That's the rumor that's been going on. Um, but Eric Gilbert, if he can figure things out and he can get the right coaching, he can get properly developed, he could be that next Kyle Pitts type of player. Yeah, he was 16 for 30. He was like what 250 yards, but 261 yards. But Bryce Young, Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, if Bryce Young went through for 500 yards, yeah, I would have been happy. But at the same time, if you really think about it, it's like, no, that just means our defense is kind of crap because it was one versus ones, it was two versus twos. You had some threes versus twos, some twos versus ones situations, but that would be definitely concern. Again, Will Anderson wasn't playing. Christian Harris wasn't playing. Just some other, Malachi Moore. I don't think Brian Branch is even playing too. Some notable players that were gone. But you saw some things that if Bryce Young, that if this was full contact and Bryce Young was able to get touched, he would have got sacked or he would have got hit. And that could have threw us, that definitely could have thrown him off a little bit. Um, you saw some scenarios where, of course, Bryce Young, should have thrown he should have thrown a pick six. Ian Jackson should have caught a pick six, right? Ian Jackson had a pick six right in his hands, and he didn't return it. He was also stripped as well, but yeah, Bryce Young made some mistakes. He made some good things, some bad things. Defense made some good plays, some bad plays as well. I know the Cameron Latu touchdown. It was a broken coverage on the zone, and Cameron Latu was able to pretty much go up the seam and pretty much score a touchdown. But yeah, I agree with you. Is that there were some good things, some bad things that we also learned as well. But from what I've seen before, man, Bryce Young is. I think he's clearly going to be the guy. I like Paul Tyson. He's a big quarterback, strong arm, was able to make some tight throws that we didn't really see Bryce Young make. But you can just tell that Bryce Young is just a little bit better right now. So we'll see during fall camp. Okay, Cooley got a pick. Cooley got a pick. Nice. I know in the fourth quarter cut off for me. They switched it and they turned on the Kirk Herbstreit stuff. I don't, I live outside Alabama, so I know for us, it was kind of difficult for me to kind of watch it, and then I couldn't really watch it on my phone because my connection was crap. So if Kool got a pick, that's nice. Again, I need to watch the full game. Uh, well, the fourth quarter. I need to watch the more specifically like the last 8 minutes of the fourth quarter. But that's dope, man. Kool got a pick. I see Quincy McKinstry. Georgia sucks, and that's all I gotta say. I don't blame you, dog. I don't blame you one bit. I like Georgia, but hey, man, listen, I don't blame you one bit, man. Yeah, you can make the strides, the progressions. I would say the one thing that he needs to fix, the one thing that he kind of needs to not really fix, it's more kind of adapt to, is that you can just you can tell the height is kind of hindering his game a little bit. Crimson, like you can tell his height is hindering him because I can in a couple of plays he had a receiver not really wide open. It was tight coverage, but he could have made the throw. He could have made it, and trying to throw it over the top, getting the ball really high so that receivers really kind of have the best chance to get it. I mean, you can just tell that the height is a little bit of a hindrance. I know one thing that Drew Brees does a lot is that he kind of just he leans, he looks up, and he has the perfect release for it. Bryce Young can kind of adapt his game a little bit. I think that he'll be fine. I think Bryson will be fine regardless, but that's more kind of a NFL type of thing. I think that's more of a future, looking more towards the future. If he does get into the NFL. Okay, yeah, okay, and that is the third string quarterback. But you know what? He made some good throws. He made some good throws, man. That he made some pretty good throws. The one throw to a Gia Hall when I mean again, a Gia Hall made that extremely tough contested catch, but boy, oh boy. I mean, the throw was in my opinion a little bit more impressive than the actual catch itself. Yeah, I think that's for every spring game. It's like if the offense, excuse me, if your offense plays well, then the concern is about, well, why did our defense not play well? If our defense dominated, what the hell is wrong with the offense? I think it's a good thing, and this is for every spring game. It's a good thing to kind of really know the strength and weaknesses of your team. I think it's really good to know which position groups needs the most work. Even the position groups that did better, what things that do they need to kind of fix? I think that's the one good thing about spring. I think spring is the most important thing for any college football team. Spring is very important because you have tape, you have footage. Last year you didn't have any footage. Last year you didn't have any spring practices. You only had fall camp to kind of rely on. With spring you get to see, you get tape, and you have 3 to 4 months to really work on your craft, to really kind of perfect what you need to work on during spring. So I like it really when players make mistakes. I know coaches may not like it, but I like when players kind of make mistakes because you really kind of get to see what they really need to work on, and you really kind of get to you know you really start to I'm trying to find the right word. You really kind of get to be a little bit excited, I guess, for kind of their development and saying, I wonder how this kid is going to look now. We know he needs to work, let's say, on press coverage. I wonder if he's going to fix that. So I like this is a huge reason why I like spring games. Yeah, that's the one thing that I'm just a little concerned with is his height. That height is a hindrance. So I'm very kind of I want to see him kind of adapt to it. This might not happen for like it might not happen until he maybe gets to the NFL and he really starts to kind of work on it once he gets like his own kind of professional NFL trainer type of you kind of like a Chris Sims, or kind of like a Chad Pennington that works with NFL quarterbacks. It might not work until the NFL. I know for what Drew Brees, when he left Purdue, he had an NFL trainer that kind of switched up his entire throwing style and his release just for him to have a shot at the NFL. Um, but then again, you look at the Kyler Murrays, you look at the Russell Wilsons of the world; they were able to do fine as well. So again, that's just something that maybe Bryson just got to adapt to. Yeah, Tua's talented. I think with Tua, and I think that people, if people want to put this into the debate, that's fine. Durability definitely matters. It definitely factors. But there's no question Tua was more talented. Tua had the stronger arm. Tua had more. He had better velocity in his passes, better touch in his passes. I thought he was more elusive in the pocket. Definitely got to add the mobility to his factor. I thought he had the. I guess you can say that Mac Jones had more of a more leadership, because Tua was kind of a silent guy. He wasn't. He was kind of a quiet guy. Mac Jones is very very vocal. He doesn't look vocal, but he's extremely vocal on the sideline. So he's a guy that definitely, you can definitely say he's a better leader than Tua. But Tua just had. I think he has more upside as a pocket passer than Mac Jones. I agree with you on that, Crimson. G Hall's a monster. G Hall's a monster, man. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see JoJo Earl when he gets here in the summer. We didn't get to see too much of Christian Leary. I know Christian Leary made, I don't know, was he number 14? Who was number 14? I think that was Christian Leary. I'm not too sure who 14 was. Nope, I'm sorry. That's Thua Jones Bell. That's Thua Jones Bell. He made some plays. Um Christian Leary, okay, he's Christian Leary is 12. We didn't get to see too much of Christian Leary, but I'm excited to see more of him potentially in the future. JoJo Earl again might be the quickest player on the team. Well, if he gets there. But Ajia Hall, you can just see the height, the explosiveness, the power, the physicality. I mean, he overpowered bump on man to man coverage. It was a comeback route. Ajia Hall outpowered. He just he outpowered the crap out of Josh Jobe on that comeback route. And that's, Agiya Hall, just the physical presence, the catch radius, the ability to separate. I mean, the kid is going to be a star. And we look at these 8A games. It's like you look at Jerry Jeudy, what he did with Tua. You look at Amari Cooper, what he did in his 8A game. You look at John Mechie, what he did a couple years ago in his 8A game. Like true freshmen, when true freshman receivers dominate spring games, we know that typically they're going to be extremely productive during fall. So I'm excited to see what this kid goes from there. Again, I know Nick Saban said he needs to understand, he needs to recognize zone coverages, he needs to recognize more what defenses kind of give to him, and he needs to kind of choose more option routes. He needs to kind of break. I know his breaks are a little bit more consistent. I know that's what Nick Saban said, but to me, man, he looked physically imposing. Again, the catch radius is definitely there. The confidence factor is there. I think the intangibles are there. Agiya has so much upside. Jack Sawyer. I'm not Jeremiah. From what I've seen from Jack, I'm telling you, man, Jack Sawyer has the ability to be a top 5 pick and to be a top 5 pick. Not saying Bryce Young is not going to be a top 5 pick because Mac Jones is projected to being a top 3 overall pick. But Jack Sawyer is 6'5", 250 right now. He has the height, he has the size, he has the athletic ability, he has the intangibles. He has everything you need right now. He reminds you a little bit of Nick Bosa coming out of St. Thomas Aquinas because Nick Bosa already was there. He was already college level ready. Jack Sawyer, from what I've heard all spring from Ohio State fans, is that the technical aspects of his game is not the fact how we can just running around pass rushers and using explosive bursts and speed to get around the edge. It's his technical ability. Whenever I hear these experts, these fans saying that, hey, this kid already has the technical ability to dominate right now, I got to go with Sawyer on that. Javon Baker was pretty solid on his route running ability. I was more impressed with his route running ability, his route tree. Again, Javon Baker didn't make a ton of catches. I know that Brandon Turnage played some really good coverage on him, but I was more impressed with Javon Baker's route tree ability. Oops, sorry. Resend your comments. I ain't gonna lie, I kind of was in the same situation. The game cut off for me in the fourth quarter. I had to try to go on my phone to the ESPN app, and for some reason, there was like connection issues that I couldn't even attend to there. Crimson, let me. What do you think about the true freshman offensive linemen like Terrence Ferguson, Tommy Brockermeyer, James Brockermeyer? How did you feel about those guys today? J.C. Latham played today as well. I think he was on the Crimson team. I know we saw a little bit of Tommy, but who do you think was the most impressive out of those freshmen? Why does this keep saying this thing? I need to fix that. I definitely need to fix that. Ooh, I mean, last year was Mac. The other year was Joe Burrow. That's a good question. Who's going to be that guy? I agree with you. Um, I wouldn't be surprised at all if maybe Jaden Daniels for Arizona State. Um, right. I know Jaden Daniels is kind of a name. He was a name in freshman year, but sophomore year kind of slumped down and people kind of forgot about him. So if Herm Edwards can properly develop him, maybe Jaden Daniels can be that guy that comes out of nowhere and climbs up NFL's scout boards. I wanted to see Jalen Milroe play too. I really did. I don't know what the issue was with that. I don't know if it was an injury or what. And again, we saw the Baxter kid play. We saw Paul Tyson play. We saw Bryce Young play. I heard some good things from Jalen Milroe. But unfortunately, we got to wait maybe to the fall. Bo Nix. What's going on with Bo Nix? What is happening with Bo Nix? Mo Mo picks. Y'all got to stop with that, man. Mo picks. And here's the thing: if Bo Nix can just if Bo Nix, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, but if Bo Nix can develop as a passer, like just as if he could just develop his passing game, the kid is a Heisman Trophy contender. If he can just develop a little bit of a passing game, not panic when rushers are getting to him and just throw and literally just throw the ball up to for just asking for interceptions. That Brett Favre tendency, if he can just control that, Bo Nix can be a Heisman contender because he's possibly the fastest quarterback in college football. He just there's just things, man. He needs to get better. He needs to get better as a passer. Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm one of those guys. I like JT Daniels. I thought he should have been the starter from day one for the University of Georgia, and I definitely feel like he's a good fit for Todd Muckin's offense. But he's not throwing. Let's be real. He's not throwing for 4,500 yards, especially now that you lose George Pickens. Jermaine Burton's has a serious injury. You lose your slot receiver. Demetrius Robinson got arrested, and hopefully that situation can be sorted out. Whatever. Uh, Landers is good, but you're lacking depth at the receiving position. I like, your tight end room is pretty solid with Darnell Washington. You got a solid offensive line, but I mean, let's be real. Let's be real. I mean, there wasn't a lot of teams that had a lot of tape on him. More teams will adapt to the top Munkin offensive scheme. And then I think, obviously, for this year, they're not going to completely abandon the running game. Like, for Mac Jones for throw for 4,500 yards, the ground game also included 1,200 yards. It's not one of the greatest offenses. It's not going to be one of the greatest offensive showcases of all time. I think it'll be better than what Jake Fromm was at. But then again, Jake Fromm put up solid numbers as a passer. Jake Fromm was a 3,000, 3,200, 2,800, 3,000, 3,200 passing yard guy. I think JT Daniels would be very, very similar. I think it's fair, honestly. Blow dicks. Y'all gotta stop. Y'all gotta stop messing with that man. Do you feel like Kirito, you feel like Demetrius Davis is gonna be the guy? I watched a lot of Demetrius Davis coming out of North Shore High School, man. So if Demetrius Davis is going to be the guy right before, if he's gonna be the guy, uh I mean, if he looks better, he should be the guy. Because you seen what you got from Bo Nix. Bo Nix is a phenomenal playmaker, has the legs, but he sucks as a passer. He needs to get better. Yeah, I agree with you. He needs the proper development. He needs the proper coaching. Now, maybe the coach from Boise State can be the guy. Maybe he has the good offensive skill set, but it's like if he can just develop a little bit of a passing game, really control those Brett Favre tendencies of just throwing interceptions and not just throwing interceptions. I like literally looking the cornerback dead in the freaking face, and he still is throwing it like he's daring the cornerback to pick it off. Like if he could just control those urgencies, he might he could be a Heisman Trophy contender. Crimson. I've been the one guy that has said that last year was the rebuild year. I've been that's been my stance since last year. I thought that 2021 was going to be the year Alabama was going to win a national championship. I thought that this was going to be the rebuild year. I thought this was going to be a year where the defense was going to dominate. Offensively, they were going to take a step back, but defensively, they were going to go back to dominating. But then it's like after coming off of 2020, it's hard to kind of hard to kind of choose Bama to kind of repeat, especially when you know what you got from Clemson, Ohio State. Obviously you guys are Ohio State, but then you look at Oklahoma. Oklahoma looked really good last year, right? Besides those two losses, they looked really damn good. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who to choose. Maybe it's Clemson. Maybe it's Oklahoma. Again, it really depends on how good Alabama's offensive line is. I think defensively they'll be fine. I think the secondary we need to see, the offensive line we need to see, and the running game we need to see. If those three things can be great from the start, I think Bama has a chance to repeat. Gus Malzahn, yeah, and I thought Bo Nix would be the fit. I thought Bo Nix would be the perfect fit for Gus Malzahn. I mean, Bo Nix is a guy that can run the triple option offense. He can run the triple option. Gus Malzahn runs a lot of spread, runs a lot of high tempo, fast pace, has the mobility to give defenses problems. I thought he could be a perfect fit, but quarterback development was just off, and that's shocking because Gus Malzahn can develop some quarterbacks, man. Yeah, I saw Demetrius Davis once, and that was against it was when he went up against Duncanville. I saw him live once when in the state championship. This was in 2018. I just went for a visit, and that was a phenomenal state championship game, a classic of a state championship game between North Shore and Duncanville. Kid was unreal, and I think that was his sophomore year. Clemson was Notre Dame. Clemson was Notre Dame to win it all. Oh, damn, really? Notre Dame is going to take a step back. This is good. I mean, Notre Dame's going to be. Not saying they're going to be like 7-5 or 8-4 or anything like that, but Notre Dame is definitely going to take a step back. You know what Notre Dame is? They normally take a year or two off, then they'll have a year they'll go right back to being a lead again. That's just how Brian Kelly functions. Yeah. And 18 and Crimson, people kept saying that 2018's offense was the greatest offense ever. And then the following year, people kept saying that it was a battle between Alabama and LSU's offense for the greatest offense ever. And now it's the 20 offense is in contention with LSU's offense for the greatest of all time. And it's crazy because again, 18 and 19, you had 4 first round picks. You had you had 7 dudes that were NFL draft picks off your offensive line. You potentially have 2 running backs that went in the first round. You had another running back that went in the third round. I mean, you had and you had 3 quarterbacks on one team that were 2 of them could be first round picks. The other one was an early second round pick. It's crazy if you really think about it. It could be. It honestly could be. I mean, I'm not a big believer in Emory Jones. You lose a lot of talent off your offensive line. You lose some talent. You lose 3 of your best receivers at the receiving position. Uh, And not to mention that, defensively, can they be better? Yeah, I definitely think that they can be better. But Brenton Cox is your best pass rusher. The secondary, I think, needs work. Florida. I don't know. I don't really know Florida too much of Florida's schedule, but they need. It could be. I don't. They. It could be. It can definitely be. I would go with LSU. I'm going with 19 LSU. And the only reason why I'm going with 19 LSU is because I would take Burrow over Jones. I think that LSU also had three first round receiver or three potential first round receivers. Just Terrence Marshall was dominant in the slot. Then you had Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase on the outside as a tandem was just dominant. They couldn't be stopped. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was your all-purpose back. You had the best offensive line in college football. You had a pretty good tight end in Thaddeus Moss. LSU's offense was just loaded. Alabama's. I think that the one thing I guess that kind of separates it, was that Alabama had Jalen Waddle wasn't healthy, and I think if Jalen Waddle was healthy, then maybe. But in the slot, I'm taking Terrence Marshall over John Mechie because Terrence Marshall last year was clearly a number one wide receiver, and he played a lot, and he was the slot receiver in 2019. That's why personally, and it's just a little bit of an edge. It's super close, but I'll go with 19 LSU. Dan Mullen's gonna make all types of excuses. Dan Mullen. I don't like Dan Mullen. I'm not a big fan. I am not a big fan of Dan Mullen at all. This dude makes so many excuses. Oh, we lost because this team had 40,000 fans in attendance. Oh no, we lost because some of our starters didn't play, or we lost because our backup sucked, or we lost because our team just didn't walk off the bus. I don't know. It's always an excuse. I don't like Dan Mullen, man. Dude is just keeps making excuses, and I think he's just an embarrassment to their program. Yeah, yeah. I think Burrow is just better than Jones. I think Burrow is better. I think he's more accurate. I think he's more mobile. I think that's the one thing that separates him is really just the mobility, really. Yeah. A lot of people had Jamar Chase as that consensus guy. I think it's closer than what people expect it to be. I think and this is really the one thing. If Devontae Smith was 100, if Devontae Smith was 190 pounds, it would be closer than what I think that people would probably pick Devontae Smith because Devontae Smith, I think, is a better route runner. I think Devontae Smith hands is about the same. I think Devontae Smith may have a little bit better hands, but his route running ability, his route tree is the best out of any receiver, maybe besides Kyle Pitts. What Jamar Chase has over Devontae Smith, he's more physical. He's way more physical. The catch radius is there. He has solid route running ability. His route tree is not limited compared to some of the other receivers, but it's that physicality and that size, the strength to really get cornerbacks to get him off. It's just his size is I think is the biggest reason why he's the consensus number one because everything else he does at a very very good level. I've always kept saying this about Jamar Chase. He reminds me of a taller version of Golden Tate. He reminds me of a taller version of Golden Tate. And Golden Tate, he's one of my favorite receivers too. So I think that's a pretty solid comp. I know some people had him very similar to Des Bryant. He's a more advanced version of Des Bryant, which I can definitely see. Because Des Bryant, what did he use in the NFL? I mean, his route running ability was not good, but his athletic ability and his size was the reason why Des Bryant was at damn near played in the elite level for 5, 6 years. So Jamar Chase, man, again, if Devontae Smith wasn't 160 pounds, it would be a lot closer. But Chase is definitely a beast. Oh, I heard it. I made a video on that, Jeremiah. I Dan Mullen is again. He's a clown. He makes excuses, man. He never takes responsibility. He never takes any accountability. He 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 just he just he it does. He just oh, I can't even talk about Dan Mullen, man. Just a just a classic version of a red herring. Classic version of a red herring. Excuse my language. Just keeps making excuses. Again, never takes any accountability. I don't like Dan Mullen. I think that the Florida Gators community shouldn't really put up with this crap. Now Bateman's solid. Bateman's solid. I think the one of the biggest critiques for Bateman was that they're going to look at that 2020 tape and then they're going to compare it to 2019 when he had a receiver just as good as him, and you were able to see that Bateman was able to dominate when he had a receiver that played opposite of him. In 2020, he was the number one focus guy. He was the guy that everyone kind of focused on. And I know Minnesota's quarterback wasn't that good. The offense wasn't that good. The schematics was definitely different compared to how they were last year. So it was a little bit different to adapt. They had no spring camp. They barely had a fall camp because of COVID. It's like I don't think that people shouldn't really take into account the 2020 year. And then he opted out, of course. He opted out in the middle of the season, which, for NFL scouts, they might take that the wrong way because they might think, well, if you kind of left your team in the middle of a season, what are you going to do when you kind of get to us? But I like Rashad Bateman. He's solid. He might be a late first round pick, might be an early second round pick. But I like him. I like Rashad Bateman. Good size, good tracking ability, good catch radius. Not the best route runner in the world, but I think it's something that can be fixed. I think another receiver too that I think a lot of people definitely needs to pay attention to is Tamarian Terry from Florida State. I think he's very similar to Rashad Bateman, but I think because of just the whole year that 2020 that Florida State presented for Terry and for the Florida State, that it destroyed his draft stock. He was once a first round pick, a projected first round pick, and now he's a fourth, fifth round projected pick. And I think that's just so wrong. But that's just, you know, that's kind of that Rashad Bateman Terry treatment that you saw. 5 best programs to ever do it. I would say Alabama. I would say Alabama's number one. Number two, I would say number two is Ohio State. Number three is Oklahoma. Um, I would say number four would be Nebraska. I think Nebraska is there, and then number five. Who's number five? I would say Notre Dame. So I would say Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Notre Dame. I would say that's my top 5 programs. If Michigan can just win some damn national championships, they'll be on this list. But of course, Michigan only won one national championship. That was a shared one back in 97, 98. Yeah, Notre Dame has a rich history. They haven't won a national titles in a while, but they still been a successful program. Even you look at this decade and the previous decade. Well, when Brian Kelly got there, uh, last decade they were pretty good, really good actually. But historically, they've always been a phenomenal program, phenomenal football program. Oh no, Terrence Marshall's a first round. Terrence Marshall was a first round pick. Terrence Marshall was a first round pick. There's no questioning. I think the one thing, Vic, that kind of makes me mad when people are kind of critiquing his game is that he's a slot receiver. Who cares? Tyreek Hill's a slot receiver and he dominates the NFL. And we've seen Terrence Marshall not only dominate the slot, but we've seen him do really well on the outside. He's 6'2", he's 200 pounds, he's a 4.3 runner with a great catch radius. His playing style is extremely similar to Justin Jefferson. It's like, why are we taking into account that because he played in the slot, that he shouldn't be a first round prospect? That just doesn't make any sense to me, especially in today's NFL game, where the slot is where a lot of the NFL receivers really kind of dominate the game today. So I don't really get that. I don't really get that. I don't think that should be a hindrance towards Terrence Marshall. I actually think that should be a positive, because if you go back and watch the film, he not only plays in the slot, but he can play out wide. I think if you're going to kind of get on his game, is that his hands. 2019, he had drops. 2020, he had drops. But I think that's the only negative critique you can make of Terrence Marshall. I think everything else he does pretty well or pretty solid with. I think the athleticism and the traits are actually better than Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson. I think he's the most explosive out of those two. I think Alabama can have a good season. If you're talking about this season, I think Alabama will do well. If you're talking about next season, I think Alabama will do the same. The next year is going to be interesting because they play Texas. They play Steve Sarkisian. They play Texas. So that's going to be very, very interesting. But I think as long as Nick Saban's there, as the coaching staff can be stabilized, and the 5 and 4 star recruits can continue to be there and continue to get developed, Bama's going to do fine. They're going to do fine for at least the next 3 to 4 years if Nick Saban continues to stay. Yep. USC. Yep. USC has been very good as well. I can definitely put USC in that list. You can fit them. I think the thing is, I think here's the thing for USC and Notre Dame or in Nebraska, they haven't been good in the last decade. I guess I don't know if that should be a hindrance. I mean, USC has done a lot better than Nebraska, but I just love what Nebraska did during those early '70s. The '90s were dominant, extremely dominant. But USC definitely has a case to be a top 5 program. They produced a crap ton of NFL prospects, a crap ton of Hall of Famers. Uh, so yeah, they can definitely make that argument. That's actually a good comparison between him and Juju Smith. Juju Schuster. That's a really good comparison right there. And that's Juju's was a guy that did really well on the outside, but he's more of a slot receiver that just did really well on the outside. That's a pretty good comparison between him and Juju Smith. I think Marshall's more explosive than Schuster. I think he's more explosive than Schuster, though. That Corvette, Juju Smith with Juju Smith Schuster, man, with the Corvette. Yep, they're gonna be 2028 and 2029. Oh boy. Well, I mean, by then I'm gonna be in my 30s by then, so I guess I'll be fine. I don't know about some of you guys, but I should be fine. I should be excited. I might have some gray hairs, but I can't wait for that. We gotta look forward to that, which is gonna be in what 7 years. Possibility, huge possibility, Buckeye. Huge possibility that Ohio State takes it. I mean, like I said, you got the receiving core, you got the offense, the defense, we got the coaching staff, of course. They're all intact. I guess I think the biggest question really for Ohio State is: Are they going to have a Purdue Iowa moment? I think that's the question. But if they can kind of get past that yearly kind of scare of as far as some of the teams that they should be able to dominate, and then all of a sudden it kind of gives them a challenge, and if they can kind of get past that, Ohio State, they're definitely going to be in championship contention. Kind of get. I wouldn't be shocked at all, and I'll just say this: if Oklahoma wins it all, I wouldn't be surprised. Oklahoma's got a good defense. They've got a really, really good defense, and I've always said this: if Oklahoma has a defense, that's a scary sight, man. That's a very scary sight if Oklahoma has a defense. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Oklahoma potentially contends for a championship. Yeah, playoff teams, man. And I'm just thinking about this, man. Playoff teams. It's probably gonna be Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, probably Oklahoma. It's probably gonna be those four. If there's any teams that are gonna contend and gonna be different, it might be LSU. It could be Georgia. Big Ten. I don't see anybody. I don't see Michigan doing it. Maybe Penn State can rebound. Northwestern, please. Iowa, please. Wisconsin, nah. Oregon. I need to see Oregon. I need to see more of Oregon. I Iowa State. They're going to be a contender in the Big 12, but I don't really see Ohio State beating Oklahoma in the big game. I don't know. I don't really see any surprise teams this year. I think this year is going to be a little bit boring. I think it's going to be 6 or 7 teams that are going to be contending for it. I went again. Oh, if LSU and Georgia upsets Bama and one of those two teams was the SEC, I think that can shake some things up. But I think this is going to be a boring year as far as just lack of playoff contenders this year. But Buckeye, listen, I can make the same argument for Ohio State. I mean, seriously, I mean, you can make the same argument for Ohio State. I mean, besides Alabama, Ohio State has been dominating for damn near a decade. I mean, for 9 seasons, Ohio State has dominated. The one thing that has screwed up Ohio State has just been that one opponent that they should have beaten, and I think that Ohio State just overestimated them. Right, and then including the playoffs, they lost a couple times to Clemson in the playoffs. They lost to Clemson again. They lost a couple times in the playoffs. They won the national championship the one year. They lost to Bama in the national title. But I mean, you can make the same argument. I mean, they're dominating recruiting. I mean, Clemson, you can say the exact same thing. They've destroyed the ACC for almost a decade. The sport is, I do agree that Alabama is kind of making the sport boring. I hate to say it. They are. Now, I like it. I love it. And I hope they continue to dominate. But, you wish USC will step up. You wish Nebraska will step up. You wish some of these old school powerhouse teams, the Texases and the USC, and you wish that these teams will just step up, please, damn it, and just make it fun again. And that we can start seeing more of these lower Power 5 schools. I mean, these lower Division 1 schools kind of step up, like the Coastal Carolinas and the Boise States in the world, and that the playoff committee can finally kind of let them in just to kind of shake some things up. But I mean, yeah, you can make the same argument about the other 4 to 5 annual contenders. Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. That can be a shakeup, but here's the thing: those 3 teams, man. I mean, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. It's like, that's like the 3 teams we see every year. And then, and then Georgia made it to the college football playoffs in 2017, and we all know that they're normally an annual power to last 5 to 6 years. Um, but yeah, Georgia, it could be. It could be. I'm more of a. I wouldn't be shocked, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Georgia. Not saying that they're the fourth best team in the SEC, or that they're going to be, that's not going to happen. But I just don't see Georgia doing it this year. I think injuries are playing them. I think defensively they're going to be fine, but I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year, or as talented as they were last year. And then I think losing George Pickens for the season, I think is going to destroy them. Landers was good for them last year. I don't know if he's going to replicate the same thing. Jermaine Burton has kind of been on and off with injuries. Um, I need to see more from Georgia. Like I said, I need to watch that spring game. But I don't know. I don't think Georgia's here. If anything, I think it's between Bama, LSU, and A&M. Lakers are smoking the Jazz, by the way. Watching the basketball game. Yeah, I talked about this a little. I talked about this in January. I thought that Clemson overlooked Ohio State. Ohio State was motivated. They looked fired up. Um, you can just tell that all the noise or all the commotion, Ohio State heard that, they took it personally. Kind of like, you know, kind of like Michael Jordan, said in his documentary, man, we heard it and we took it personally, or I took it personally, and I thought that all that steam, all that anger, that frustration, Clemson was just there at the wrong place at the wrong time. I thought it could have happened to Bama. If Bama would have played Ohio State in that semifinal game, it could have happened to them. I think it was just the wrong place, wrong time for Clemson. I think another reason why too is because Clemson was extremely youthful. They were very youthful on the defensive side of the ball. I agree with you. They need to expand the college football playoffs, like just and I don't know I don't know what like this crap that they have to wait 3 4 years for it to actually happen. I think it's nonsense. I think it's nonsense. I think that's just I don't know why they can't just implement it. I'm not saying they just implement it like right away, as far as it's going to take them a day for them to do it, but I think that 3 to 4 year crap of waiting for something to happen, I think that's just an excuse, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. We need to expand it into 18s. We need to expand it. It needs to be four. It needs to be your five conference champions, your two at large bids, and it needs to be that one automatic non power five team. That one automatic version, the best one needs to get in. We need that's just my opinion. That's my view. But it's better than a 14 playoff when it's just the same 4 to 5 teams that just get in every year. At least with the 18 playoff, yes, there's going to be debate. Yes, there's going to be controversy. But at least you're going to see some things different. It's not going to be the same non-group of five teams that's going to make it every year. There's going to be different at large bids that are going to make it in. Yeah, it might be the same conference champions, or the same 3 to 4 conference champions, but at least we'll see something different, and we'll get to have a little bit of a true tournament this time, and we'll get to determine, at least for this time, who's going to be a true national champion. It's just better than a 14 college football playoff. Even when it first implemented it, I just thought it was stupid. I'm excited to watch Ohio State, Oregon. I'm excited to watch Georgia, Clemson, of course. Um, Very excited to watch that. I'm excited to watch the shoe game rematch between LSU and Florida. Ohio State, Michigan, only because I didn't get to see it last year. I'm very excited to see that rematch, even though we all know who's going to win that game. We all know how many points is going to be by. But still, because we didn't get to see it last year, I'm very excited to watch that game. Um, I would say USC, Oregon, um, North Carolina, Clemson. I don't know if those two teams are playing against each other. No, they're not. I was going to say Clemson, Syracuse, but I don't think that's happened this year. Normally, Syracuse gives Clemson a run for their money, but I don't think they're going to do it this year. Um, I would say Miami versus Virginia Tech. That's another game. I always like those annual games. Just the return, just literally the return of the rivalries. I would say just the return of the rivalries, the Miami's versus the Florida States of the world, the South Carolina versus Clemson's, just the classic return of your rivalries is what I'm excited about. The non-conference rivalries, the Utah versus BYU. I missed the Civil War, or they changed the name because people are sensitive, but still I miss watching that particular game as well. My biggest concern is the offensive line and the secondary. That's my biggest concern. Offensive line and the secondary are my two. The secondary, we don't have a number one corner. We don't have a true number one corner. We're still finding that guy. Pat Surtain has been well. It was Trayvon Diggs, then it was Pat Surtain. Now we don't know who it's going to be, and people are suspecting it's going to be Josh Jobe. And if he's the guy, then we're screwed because even though I like Josh Jobe, he's a solid number two corner. He's a guy that gets beat a lot on the outside. He's a guy that still needs to work on his pressing game. He needs to work on zone coverage concepts. He needs a lot of work. Kool-Aid is a true freshman. So there's always kind of that worry that a true freshman as a number one corner is going to be the concern. Maybe it's Jalen Arbor Davis. Maybe it's Ronald Williams. It's just there's uncertainty in your secondary, and then your offensive line situation, losing 3 out of your 5 offensive linemen, that's big, especially because that's a Jordan Moore award-winning offensive line, and you're losing Glander Dickerson, Deontay Brown, losing Alex Leatherwood, losing 3 All-Americans in general. That's tough. That's very, very tough to replace. Even if you do have a bunch of 5-star offensive linemen, that's tough to replicate. So, but those are my biggest concerns, honestly. It's the offensive line and the secondary. More specifically, the outside cornerbacks. Washington, okay. Washington's always been very underrated. Um, they've always produced really, really good cornerbacks. Of course, Chris Peterson's not there, but I can see Washington being very underrated in the Pac. The Pac-12 is not strong this year. I mean, the Pac-12 really isn't strong. Has never really been the strong conference. I think USC is well. USC had a very disappointing year. Oregon, despite even Oregon won the Pac-12, they still had a crappy year because they should have never even played. It should have been Washington versus USC for the Pac-12 championship. Washington couldn't even play in that game because of COVID. So I don't know. I don't know if Oregon's going to make this huge significant jump from 2020 to 2021. I just don't really see that. So I can definitely see Washington as a very underrated team. Arizona State would be my underrated team only because I like Herm Edwards. I like the job he's done there. I know that they took a big step backwards, but I think that if you give them some time, you give them spring ball, you give players that they can progress. I think they got the quarterback there in Jaden Daniels. I think that's the team to watch out. But Washington is normally a team that's top 3, top 4 when it comes to talent. Where are the playoffs this year? Let me just look that up because I'm not too sure. Let me look that up because I'm trying to think, and let me see. Okay, so Miami. Okay, nope, that's the wrong question. Okay, so Pasadena and Louisiana. So that's going to be the. Well, no, hold on. That happened this year, actually. Never mind. I don't know. They didn't make any announcements. They didn't make any announcements. for that. I'll do some more research on that though. I don't know why they just won't tell me the location. I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's replaced the game. It's too one sided. It's way too one sided. Way too damn one sided. I mean, Michigan hasn't beaten Ohio State since 2011. Um, I mean, the Civil War is a good game for the most part, but it just doesn't really have that much impact. USC versus UCLA is not that huge anymore. Florida State and Miami is not that huge. Florida State versus Florida is not that huge anymore. I mean, Bama and Auburn. At least Auburn beats Bama, despite Gus Malzahn being fired, despite all the controversy and all the crap that Auburn fans have. Gus Malzahn's beaten Nick Saban 4 times, or he's beaten him 3 times, and Nick Saban's lost to Auburn 4 times in his career. And Alabama hasn't beaten Auburn in their stadium since 2015. He hasn't won there in 5 years. So there's meaning, there's impact. And then every time Auburn beats Alabama, it's front news. It's on ESPN for about a week. And then the most memorable plays happen. Some of the best players play against each other. And it's too many classic moments. It's become the game. I think that's become kind of the game. Now, it might not be that for a while. I think the next couple of years, I wouldn't, if Bama sweeps Auburn, I wouldn't be surprised by it. But, you're in a state which produces a crap ton of talent. And not to mention that Auburn, they love to recruit the state of Georgia. So Auburn's going to be back. They might not be back now, but they're going to be back in a little bit, and they can challenge and they could challenge Alabama. Auburn's been the one team consistently that has challenged Alabama as far as threatening, as far as beating them. They've been the one consistent team besides Clemson. Yeah, last year. Well, yeah, last year of course was different. Bama destroyed them, but still, Auburn's has been the only team that can challenge Alabama. I mean, might take a couple of years for them to do it, but one thing Auburn has is that they got the history, they got talent, and I do like Boise. I do like their the Boise State coach. So you just never know. Okay, so that's if Ohio State makes it to the national championship, that's a huge advantage. That's a big advantage actually for Ohio State. That's a huge advantage for Ohio State because they're in. Yeah, you're right. They're in Indianapolis. That's a 2 hour drive, maybe less for Ohio State. If they take a plane, that's like a half an hour. And not to mention that Alabama has to travel all the way to the north to play them. Like, think about this. Like during the playoff era, can you remember a time where Alabama had to travel up north to play somebody? They haven't done it since Penn State back in 2011. So that's huge home field advantage right there for Ohio State. Again, Alabama every year when they've played in the playoffs, they've only had to travel and we're just talking about driving a bus 2-3 hours, 2-3 hours to Florida, to Louisiana, to Texas. That's like maybe 4 or 5. That's like maybe 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours to Texas. I'm sorry, that's like 3-4. That's like 3-4 hours if they're driving at best. You already know. Okay, so the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. Okay, so that's going to be in Dallas. Okay. Watson. I got to go with Deshaun Watson all the way. Uh, Trevor Lawrence was just on a dominant Clemson team. Defensively, Bama couldn't do anything. The offensive line for Clemson, Bama's defensive line couldn't even touch Trevor Lawrence. Deshaun Watson, the last 2015 and 2016 Alabama defenses were some of the greatest Alabama defenses that they've ever had. On talent and on paper wise, some of the best defenses, including the 2016 defense, which was proclaimed as the best defense, the most talented and the best defense Bama has ever had. And Deshaun Watson put up over 1,000 yards of offense on those defenses. The manpower Trevor Lawrence was the manpower that Trevor Lawrence had was way better than what Clemson had in back in 2015 and 2016. Deshaun Watson was a one-man wrecking crew. He scared the crap out of me. I hated Deshaun Watson way more than I hated Trevor Lawrence. And I don't hate Trevor Lawrence, but Deshaun Watson hated that dude in college because I knew if you went up against him, you just knew what type of game you were getting. You were getting a shootout. You were getting a guy that was gonna put up 300 and 400 yards. And here's the thing: you can hit Deshaun Watson, you can sack him, you can make him do a helicopter flip. He just wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop messing with you. I hated going against Deshaun Watson, man. I hated that guy so much. Utah. I don't know too much about Utah. I know about Ty Jordan. I know that he passed away for them, and I know that they had this spring game. But yeah, Utah with Kyle Winningham. That's going to be pretty good. That'll be good to see if they can come back. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. What was the record of Auburn back in 2015? They were 7-4. I'm trying to think. Yeah, Bama has never beaten. Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. He's never won. He's 0-8, and that's LSU and that's LSU and Alabama combined. Never won. I know at Alabama. I'm trying to think. 2010, Auburn was undefeated. 2011, they were 8-5, but that's because they won a bowl game. 2012, horrible. 2013, they lost. 2014, I'm trying to think. No, 2014, they had 7 wins when Bama played them. Yeah, you're right. You're right. The best national championship. 95 Nebraska. I'm not even arguing with that. I know that you got some LSU fans that will say, well, no, 2019 LSU team, 7 top 10 teams and greatest offense ever. No, 95 Nebraska is not even debate. Not even debate. Listen. When the closest team you beaten, the difference was 21 points. Oh no, it's over. There's no debate. I don't care about the eras. I don't care about the fact that Nebraska was a triple option offense. I don't care about that. You dominate, and the closest game you ever had was by 21 points. And not to mention that they played five top 25 teams. 3 of them were in the top 10. And then one of those games was the national championship. And you put up 70 points on Florida, who the following year won the national title. Greatest team ever. 95 Nebraska. It's not even close, in my opinion. They were by far the most dominant team we've ever seen. Oh, can they compete with the offenses? Yes. And I think the only reason why I'm going to say that is because we've seen triple option offenses, even with the modern offenses, we've seen triple option offenses do good. Right? Look at Army. Army when they competed with Oklahoma. This was like what 3 seasons ago, but still, Army was 10-3, and Army honestly could have Army could have won 11-1. I think they could have won 11-1 that year. You look at Georgia Tech, what they did in 2014 when it was still a modernized offense. Georgia Tech they won a New Year's Six bowl game when they beat Mississippi State with the triple option offenses. We've seen triple option offenses still be able to succeed in the modern day. Nebraska was way ahead of his time. Like you had these slim down 300-pound offensive lineman that was bigger and stronger than everybody else in the football field. Tommy Frazier as a runner was dynamic as hell, and he was an underrated thrower. Maybe they don't have the outside receivers to kind of match the modern game, but they were dominant in the front. And then defensively, bigger, stronger, more athletic, faster than everybody else in the football field. They out recruited everybody, and that was just shown. So I think that they can compete. Um, Honestly, I think not that better than Tom Herman, in my opinion. I think Steve Sarkisian will have more success than Tom Herman, but I wouldn't be surprised at all that Texas goes 8-4 this year. The following year, Texas goes 8-4 in the regular season, maybe 9-4 in the with postseason. Um, I just wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I wouldn't be surprised. I think that we gotta. I think recruiting has to take place. We've seen a lot of transfers. We've seen a lot of players leave. I think we need to, recruiting classes need to start to be on display. Um, I think that with Oklahoma finding a stride and Iowa State finding a stride, I think it's going to take a little bit of time before Texas starts to kind of rebound and really be at the top echelon of the teams in the Big 12. But I think it's going to take about a couple years before Steve Sarkisian can really get this program rolling, and that maybe that will disappoint some Texas fans. Maybe that will kind of rush Texas fans to saying, "Oh, we made the wrong hire again." But let's be honest, Tom Herman was kind of a rush fire. I thought he should have stayed for at least one more year. It's not like he had any horrible seasons, and he beat Oklahoma a couple times. I just, so I think Texas fans should definitely be patient with Sarkisian. Oh no, Cam Newton. Because if you really look at Cam Newton's stats, the reason why, again, compared to the Joe Burrows or the Johnny Manziels, Mac Jones, and Lamar Jacksons of the world, I mean, yeah, Cam Newton, he had almost 3,000 yards, and he rushed 1,500. He rushed like what, 1,200 rushing yards, 1,400 rushing yards. But he carried the absolute hell out of that 2010 team. You take Cam Newton off that damn team, that's a 6-7 win team. That's a 6-7 win football team. Cam Newton elevated that program. He took that program to a different level compared to what we saw from the Joe Burrows and the Mac Joneses or the Jameis Winstons of the world. No, 2008 Florida was 2008 Florida was the most fun. Watching Jeffrey Demps and Chris Rainey and Tebow, Harvin, obviously the Pouncey twins, Brandon Spikes, Joe Hayden. I mean, that was Aaron Hernandez. I forgot who the racist right receiver, Riley Cooper. Yeah, I mean, they were fun. They were very, very fun to watch, but they weren't really dominant in a way. They weren't really as dominant compared to what we saw from 95 Nebraska or 19 LSU or even 04 USC or 03 USC. Oh, they'll be fine. Ohio State and Clemson would do absolutely fine in the SEC. Uh, Again, would they have more losses? Maybe. I mean, I don't think Clemson will have undefeated. Clemson. I don't think they'll have undefeated regular season. I don't think Clemson would dominate the SEC. I think that there are years where they'll have a couple lost seasons. They'll have some three-loss seasons. They might have some three-loss seasons. Um, I think it also depends too on the divisions, right? Let's say Clemson. If Clemson's in the SEC East, they might actually go undefeated because Georgia. They might go undefeated. They might take a loss because really, besides Georgia, there really isn't anybody else in the SEC East that can challenge them. If they're in the West and they have to go against their West counterparts, then that's where it becomes interesting because you play Alabama, you play A&M, you play LSU, and you play Auburn if they can get their stuff together. If there are some years where they can get their stuff together, so it depends on what division they're in. Um, but they'll do fine. I mean, would they win the SEC? Would they win their respective conference every year? No, but automatically they'll automatically top three contenders. With some years with LSU and Georgia contending. Oh, that's a good question, right? That's a very good question. Who would be better in the SEC? I would probably say Ohio State because Ohio State's talent. I think Ohio State's talent. I think that there are some years where Clemson, if they were in the SEC, there's no way in hell they would have made it to the college football playoffs. There's no way in hell they would even walked out with 2 losses, or they would have walked out probably with 2 or 3 losses. I think Ohio State's talent is matches anyone in the SEC. Clemson is now getting there. They're now getting there. They've had 2 really good recruiting classes, but they've never really had outstanding recruiting classes. Ohio State has always had outstanding recruiting classes. They've always had proper coaching. They've always had the talent to match anybody. So I would say Ohio State right now would be the better team in the SEC, or be a better fit in the. I would say more specifically the West. If you put Clemson in the East, Clemson would dominate and win that division. If you put Clemson in the West, they wouldn't. Ohio State would probably have the better chance of annually doing good every single year in the West. Utah Jazz, boy. Favorite game I've ever watched: Alabama versus Georgia 2012. SEC championship game. Favorite game. Favorite game. Best game I've ever watched. Love that game. That game was literally down to the wire. Uh, CJ Mosley saved my life because I literally almost had a heart attack when Aaron Murray threw that pass to the tight end and he literally fell to the 2 yard line. And then Chris Connolly thankfully caught the pass to end it. But that was the best game I ever watched, man. Amari Cooper, AJ McCarron, Eddie Lacy, TJ Yeldon, Georgia. Um, I forgot. You had Jones, Alec Ogletree, Big Old Jenkins, Todd Gurley. You saw some huge showcases from Todd Gurley. One of the best games I ever saw. I already did that question. Oh, they would have made it. 2018 was a down year. Yeah, 2018 was a down year. Deshaun Watson can make. Deshaun Watson can turn bread into wine. Deshaun Watson can do anything he wanted to. That dude can literally turn bread into freaking wine, man. Deshaun Watson, there's no doubt in my mind. He just makes everyone better. Even look at the situation with the Houston Texans. Just makes everyone better. Would Oklahoma be good in the SEC? Oh boy, that's a good question. Oklahoma will be a 9 or 10 win. I think Oklahoma will be a 9-win team if they win the SEC. Um, and I'm just talking about previous years because we've normally seen Oklahoma, even when they make the playoffs, with just an offense and a defense. But you're not winning the SEC with you're not winning the SEC with just an offense. You need a defense. You need balance. And if Oklahoma can finally have that balance, then Oklahoma can do absolutely fine in the SEC. But and I think again, it also depends on the division. If you're in the East, when there really isn't that many teams to really challenge you, then you can do fine. But if you're in the West and you're going against Bama, LSU, A&M, Auburn, every single, and you're going against those 4 opponents annually. I think Oklahoma would probably be a 2 loss, maybe 3 loss team in the SEC every year. Yeah, 4 losses, even potentially. Again, it just all depends if they can just get their crap together. They can just get their crap together. I think they'll do absolutely fine. Ooh, yeah. 2013. 2013. Oh man, I can tell you, man. My barber passed away that year. He passed away, I think, a couple weeks prior to the Alabama game, and they were actually throwing a party. They were throwing a party in honor of my barber. I was supposed to go after the Alabama Auburn game. When that kick six happened, I cried, and I was in high school. I was a sophomore in high school, but I cried. I broke my remote. I broke the window. I broke my TV. I broke my PlayStation 3. I broke my PlayStation 3, and that's fine because PlayStation 4 and Xbox One came out the next year, came out the following week. But I broke everything, and I didn't go. And it's one of the biggest regrets that I've had that I should have probably went. But I was so I can't tell you how angry I was when that kick six happened. For some, I get it. It's probably the most memorable moment in college football history. But oh man, I broke everything in my house as soon as I saw that crap. It pissed me off. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Buckeye, it just really depends on the balance. If Oklahoma can have a balance between offense and defense, then I can see them doing well because they've always got a good offensive line. They've always got a good running game. It's just that their defense has just been absolutely horrendous. I don't know, man. Utah's kind of choking this away. Yeah, Utah lost. No, it's overtime. We're in overtime between that game and between Utah and LA. I don't know if Coach O is. He- Ryan, here here's the thing that Coach O, when he made the statement, guys, he made the statement. He picked his coaches randomly last year. He said that on off the bench. You can go back, if you look up his interview on off the bench, he literally said he picked his coaches at random. He got suggested these coaches, and he says, "All right, I'll bring them on. Fine, I'll bring them on." He chose his coaches randomly. He didn't go through a process. He didn't personally evaluate the coaches. He chose them at random. What coach does that? I mean, what coach does that? But then you go back in 2019 and he got Joe Brady and he got Dave Aranda and Esminger. He has all these really good NFL coaches, all these good coaches, college coaches that ended up as NFL coaches. And I don't know, man. I think 2021 is going to tell you all you need to know about Ed Orgeron. I think he's a good coach, but I think 2021 we will. I think this will be the year to tell if he's legit or if it was just a 1 year wonder. Because I've never heard of a coach that literally chose his coaches at random. He randomly chose it. He literally closed his eyes. It just said, all right, Bo Pelini, all right, I'll bring him on. Yeah. And I've always said this about, OKC. I don't know what to tell you about OKC, man. Chris Paul left, and it's been horrendous. Listen, if that's true, then that's just whew. Well, I mean, let me say this, man. If Ed Orgeron doesn't get the job done this year, and I'm not just talking about winning or contending for a national title, I'm talking about winning, getting past 7 wins, because 5-5 was damn near 7-5. If he can't get past 7 or 8 wins this year, he needs to be on the hot seat. I don't care if you won a national title or not. I mean, look what he's done the last couple of years. You choose your coaches that you had. You've done horrible in the coaching process. You got all the talent in the world, and you can't. And you've shown the ability not to properly develop them. If he can't get his crap together in 2021, I'm sorry. He's on the hot seat for 2020 going into 2022. He's on the hot seat, man. Yeah. Uh Kirito, man, that's I think he can do well. Again, he's a phenomenal college coach, and he has a crap ton of experience. Every team he's went to has been a successful program. I think the thing is that going to translate well to the NFL? It's obvious he's going to get Trevor Lawrence. He has a little bit of he has a little bit of a talented squadron, but you're also competing in a tough division with Indianapolis and Tennessee. You got a tough NFL schedule going into the 2021 season, and how just can you develop your quarterback properly? I think that's the biggest question. Is like it's different from the college level to the NFL level. Um, I hope he does well, but I'm not too sure about that one. It's nowadays we're starting to see a lot more college coaches translate well to the NFL. But Urban Meyer's been a dude that's taken time. He's done well at a certain program, taken time off, and then he decides to kind of come back. And it's like the NFL continues to change and adapt, and you really can't do that there. Yeah, but all right, guys, that is going to do it for me. I've been streaming for about a couple hours now. Thank you guys so much for stopping by the stream. For everyone that stopped by the stream lately, it's been great conversations. Definitely look forward to some of my videos that I'm gonna be making towards the future. Again, a lot more spring games, a lot more previews. I'm gonna be doing previews, college previews and NFL previews throughout the season. So stay tuned for that. But thank you so much for joining the live stream. I don't know when I'll probably do another live stream. I might do it tomorrow. But yeah, appreciate you guys, Elena, Buckeyes, Kirito, Jeremiah, Crimson. Again, yeah, Buckeyes fan. Thank you guys so much for chatting with me for these past couple of hours. I definitely appreciate you guys for stopping in. And that is going to do it for me. So anyway, guys, normally again, I haven't streamed in a while. I need to make a proper streaming schedule, Buckeye. So I'll definitely let you know. Follow me on the community again. Subscribe. Definitely follow me on the community tabs, and I will definitely let you guys know my proper streaming schedule. Again, my connection and my camera is definitely not the greatest, so I need to definitely get the equipment sorted out for me to do this annually. Uh, but yeah, definitely expect that to happen. So definitely stay tuned with me. Um, but yeah, thank you guys so much for joining the stream, and I will check you guys out later, man. So yeah, this is Jan Sports, and I'm out.